at the Margarita Hall in Rome right after the play that the Futures Italians and the audience have started a riot at. We are going to be taking some few members from the audience and the plays and asking them questions for interviews. With us this evening, we have Mr. Helsing, who is a musician in the play we just watched. I'm going to ask you a few questions, Mr. Helsing. Are you okay with that? I am okay with that. Okay, great. So the first question I'm going to ask you is, did you agree with the kind of instrumental music you used to perform the play work? I believe that the invention that was used to create the music did an excellent job of conveying the emotions that they wanted the audience to feel. That harsh, confusing, and angering feeling of the random noises from the music. The machine used harmony very differently to reach those emotions, with random noises coming from the machine. It also had a loud dynamic to make it upsetting for the audience even more, which I think had a play in activating the riot. Okay, so the next question is, do you believe that the composer of the music had used actual instruments? Would they still achieve the same reaction from the audience? I believe that the composer of the music could still reach the same goal if they were to have used string instruments with a mix of woodwind and percussion instruments. By using these types of instruments, they could still get the dissonance feeling that the machine they made for the plays produced, along with multiple tones that can stack on one another. Okay, so my next question is, do you think that the composer of the music put his feelings and those of the other performers of the play into the music? Personally, I do think that the composer, when making the music, keeps all the performers for the plays in mind when making the music. I think to the actors, even with all the random noises and the dissonance from the audience members, the actors hear the opposite. They hear consonance. They hear a peaceful melody with rhythmic and tonal organization of the music. It brings out the performers' rightful emotions that they feel when performing the show. I think the music is what fueled the fire for the riot that happened, and the lighting the fuse and getting the audience members so angry. Just one last question for you, Mr. Helsing. Do you have any idea why all the actors, musicians, and the writers of the plays are so abrasive and wanting to start a riot in the crowd like what just happened moments ago? I personally don't like that we upset the audience and have it end up in a riot. It takes away what performing is and having people enjoy the show. Instead, most of the people on the stage seem to find what they find admirable. I do not believe it. Thank you for letting us ask you these questions, Mr. Helsing. I hope you enjoy the rest of your night. Okay, next up we have Miss Good, who was a dancer in the play that we just watched. Miss Good, are you okay if we ask you just a few questions about the things that happened tonight? I am all good if you decide to ask me questions. Perfect. So the first one we have for you is, do you believe that when you perform the shows that the audience members have no clue what they are watching and have trouble with the description and interpretation of the plays? I think that the audience members hate that they have no trouble trying to come up with what they are watching and why they can never figure out what will happen. I think it also influences the evaluations that they have on the play even before it ends, hence all of the throwing items at us in a riot. Okay, Miss Good, the next question we have for you is, do you have the reason behind all the actions you guys do on the stage that you know will upset the audience members? The reasons behind the actions we do is to prove that we can perform however we want, express what we are feeling, getting raw and real emotions, and that scares the audience members, as we can see. But by performing the way we do, it is pushing us forward and showing us that we don't have to appease the audience members for what we are doing. It is for ourselves and not them. The next question for you, Miss Good, is, now as performers you use the 5 basic motions of ballet, but you do also use those movements to make more exaggerated or less fluid motions that would be normally used. Yes, as performers we use the 5 basic motions we perform, but we do change those motions that are taken from those steps and make it work for the plays we will be performing at that moment. For example, one of the plays we did was Love of Two Locomotives, where we were robots, and had to take those 5 steps and turn those moves into robotic movement. While it wasn't the hardest thing to do, it still felt different but exciting to create those different movements. Okay, last question for you, Miss Good. What is your thought on what happened today in the crowd with starting a riot, and why do you as actors seem to bring this on? I see it as being able to express ourselves and make sure people can see more than just the normal areas of performing. By doing this, we are bringing different methods of theater into the play. This obviously upsets the audience to start riots.
but I believe we are doing a service for the theater and expanding the methods used for our plays. Right now we have Mr. Chalice, who we pulled from the audience just after the riot had settled down. Mr. Chalice, are you okay as we ask you just a few questions?
That is fine with me.
If you as an audience member know what the performance will be happening is going to upset all the audience members, why still come to the play?
We come to the shows to show that we absolutely hate that what they are doing. This is not what theater is, and it is disgusting to watch.
Okay, so the next one is by constantly coming to the shows, you are still providing them with money to perform the next play, which will continue this endless cycle.
But if we still come to the plays and start more riots like today, we can keep showing our hatred for what these people are doing, and maybe after a good while we can drive out their thinking and changing of the future of the theaters.
And just one last question for you, Mr. Tallis. Why are you and all the audience members so adamant about keeping their version of theater to shine light and grow in popularity and show more possibilities what theater could become by rioting against them?
Because by doing these riots and crushing their plays, I personally hope that we can break their spirits enough to break them into never performing these stupid, awful plays again. I truly believe that today went the best it could, and by starting a riot and causing more anger and hatred towards the performers, hopefully they will start getting the message.
Thank you for so much to answering our questions, Mr. Tallis. That will be it for you.
This concludes our interviews held at the Margarita Hall in Rome. Thank you for listening and be safe.